Okay, this is part 11 of the Florida Seminole War Heritage Trail, a free booklet that's published by the Florida Department of State. If you look in the description of the video, you can find out where you can pick up a free copy. And this is the 10th anniversary since we made this booklet. So I'm going over what's new, what's still there, what's maybe missing. There's a few historical markers that we found that have gone missing. So I'll be looking over to the side a lot. And this area of Florida, I haven't been too much as many as the other parts of Florida. So I'm going to rely heavily on different websites. This time I'll be jumping back and forth between my photographs and the websites. Also, I'm in modern Seminole clothing this time. That's because my old historical clothing that I've kind of ran out of outfits for that. So I figure I'd switch to a couple of my modern ones for the last two sections of the state. So let's begin. Starting off, the first site on the Heritage Trail is Fort Vinton. And looking up on my map, this is not on the 1839 map, so I guess this was established in 1850. Yeah, after the Panic of 1849. So kind of between the wars and Third Seminole War, named after Captain John Rogers Vinton, who spent a lot of time in Florida, did a lot of writing. He was at New Smyrna Beach, a fort there. He was at Cape Florida. And he was at Fort Mellon in Stanford. So we mention him a lot during this trail because we show some of his images, and you'll see one tonight. He was killed in 1847 in the Mexican War during the Battle of Veracruz. In fact, his on his grave, his tomb in Providence, Rhode Island, it has on top of it the cannon shell that took off his head. Sounds a little gruesome, but I think that's kind of novel. Next site we have is Fort Capron. Yes, Fort Capron, same era. This is pretty much at the crossroads south of Fort Vinton, and this in the Fort Pierce area. So this is named after an officer who was killed at the Battle of Lake Okeechobee. In fact, we're going to mention the Lake Okeechobee here in a minute. Um, and oh, that's it. But before we get there, let me switch and show you our websites. We have in Fort Pierce is named after Colonel Benjamin Pierce, the brother of future President Franklin Pierce from New Hampshire, of course. And this is a website of Old Fort Park, where Fort Pierce was originally. Oh, it's pretty much right on the intercoastal, right there. And this is the park. There's a mound in there. It's an Aboriginal mound. When the Army built the fort there, they built a signal tower on top of the fort. It's a very odd trapezoid shaped fort as well. Old Fort Park is where it was. So that's kind of neat. If you're going to Fort Pierce, you need to check it out, along with the St. Lucie County Regional History Museum right here, the St. Lucie County Regional History Center. And that's kind of strange. It's where you have the bridge going over there, coastal, there's an island in the middle. And right on the island is the history museum right here. It has some good Seminole War stuff. Very good museum. So check that out. I think there's an exit off the bridge to get there. I once did a history program there, but gosh, that was 30 years ago, so I can barely remember it at this point. But Fort Pierce is kind of a neat area there. Going to the west, Okeechobee Battlefield, if you was it Highway 70 or Highway 60, I guess Highway 70, that takes you to Okeechobee. The battlefield became a state park in 2007. and they have an annual reenactment there. Not many pictures to show you here. Do they have any pictures? Let's see. Well, not just a few here from the reenactment. Okay, cool. So, did you learn about the Battle of Okeechobee? Okay, cool. Well, so I want to share an image with you before I go to Jupiter. This is a painting done by Guy Labrie, and this painting, the Battle of Okeechobee. This is one of his earlier paintings with the Seminole War themes. I think this was like the late 80s, early 90s. When he did this, I kind of had to take it at an angle so the lights wouldn't glare in there. Pretty neat picture. Um, the Army forage caps are the wrong wrong style and color. That was later on in the war, but it doesn't take away from the image of the soldiers fighting desperately and the Miccosukees and Seminoles defending their homeland. So pretty neat. Okay, next let's go to the town of Jupiter area. This is not in the booklet, but there's the DeBose house. It's like right on the beach. Uh, they were some of the first settlers in the area, so this is a historical building and a museum. You can take tours of the house. It's on top of an Indian shell mound, which you notice a theme there. Well, that's to get away from the flooding. So nearby, we have Jupiter Inlet Lighthouse Museum here, and the Jupiter Inlet Lighthouse. It was built in 1860. I remember when it had this the 150th anniversary. This is a picture I took way back in 2010. This is one of my favorite lighthouses in Florida. I just because it looks so scenic and it's a fun one to climb. Let's switch to the web page again. And you see here, you get a beautiful view. I don't know if they let you go outside right now or not. But anyway, I've been outside before and there's a lighthouse keeper house down there. Used to be, I think there's a Coast Guard station, or I don't know if it still is a Coast Guard station, but you can see from the web page here. It's worth going out and visiting. Also in the area, oh, I didn't do a link for this, but Jonathan Dickinson State Park. And so the big thing I want to show is the Waxahachie River Battlefield Park. I was there, I think it was about 1997 when they were doing the archaeological work, talking to the group there. And that's really to determine that this was the battlefield. Um, the went on for quite a while for the research to determine that was the battlefield. And if you're on Facebook, the Waxahachie Battle Preservationists, this web page on Facebook that I'm linked to, and they post stuff every day. Glenn Beckles is kind of the moderator there. You can see stuff from the Seminole tribe. Boy, those are really nice watercolor paintings. I really like those. And see just historical stuff. But anyway, back to the battlefield. So we went to the battlefield in 2022. We had a convocation there. What's important about the battle? It's actually two battles. After the Battle of Okeechobee, 2 weeks later, I think this is January 15th, Navy Lieutenant Levin Powell brought, I think it's 5 boats upriver combination Navy sailors and Army soldiers, and they're trying to figure out where the Seminole villages were, and they got ambushed and barely made it out. They nearly got wiped out. Um, but they go back and tell General Thomas Jessup where the Seminoles are, and Jessup gets his army and men. And this marker there also in the park of Jessup's battle 2 weeks or 10 days later on January 24th, 1838, which was the probably the largest battle in the Second Seminole War, 1,600 soldiers on the United States side, uh, probably several hundred Miccosukee Seminoles. Not sure about the exact number, but in 2022, we had a convocation there where we visited the park. We visited the site of Battle of Waxahachie, and these are some of the leg irons that held Seminole prisoners. We visited the site of, I guess, near where they had Fort Jupiter. After the battle, the natives, Miccosukee Seminoles, met with General Jessup, said, all we want to do is stay in Florida. If you can let us stay around here, we won't bother anyone, all that. Jessup says, well, it's not up to me to make that decision. So I'll have to write Washington. So Jessup writes Washington, comes back about a month or two later because it takes a long time for word to come back. And Washington says, no, they need to be removed. So Jessup gets his dragoon soldiers, surrounds everyone, about 750 Seminoles, Miccosukee, black allies, and puts them in irons, chains, and keeps them there and sends them to the East Coast to be shipped to Indian Territory, what we call Oklahoma now. And this was leg irons were actually found during the archaeological investigation at the encampment where the Seminoles were held prisoner. That's a stake used to, I guess, stake in the ground so they can't pull out the leg iron and run off. So very emotional. This was probably one of the most significant historical events I ever attended in modern day Seminole tribe history. The other one that I feel was important was the opening of the Atothique Museum, but that's story for next time. We had our convocation here in the park. Here's Glenn Beckel speaking. This is Lewis Johnson, Chief of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma. We had representatives of the Seminole Nation, the Seminole Tribe of Florida, the Miccosukee Tribe of Florida, even in an independent Seminole Miccosukee tribe, and a few Creek folks too. So it was quite a convocation. And so it's also in the Jupiter area. Historical marker for military trail. There's I guess it's a state highway. They call it the military trail today. A lot of people think it's just in honor of the veterans. Well, it's original military road built by General Jessup or Major Waterdale's, I guess, back in the Seminole War times. So anyway, um, and are we in Broward County? Yeah. Okay. Now we're in Broward County, heading further south. The Cooley Massacre, historical marker for this, little monument for this. You look up the location in the guide. I'm not, I'm not going to tell you wherever these are. Half the fun is finding them. The Cooley family, William Cooley was a settler here in his plantation area, settled here in 1824. He had kind of had some bad dealings with the Seminoles, so they decided to have revenge on him when the war started, and he was actually away from home. Uh, I think Miccosukee, or maybe it was the Spanish Indians, came here and killed his family. Cooley, of course, came back. He survived and From there, I think he moved to the west coast of Florida. I mentioned him, I think, in a previous episode. Marker to the Cooley Massacre at the beginning of the Second Seminole War. And of course, Fort Lauderdale, and named after the fort that was established in the Second Seminole War, named after William Lauderdale. The fort was actually in three different places, and I think there are probably at least two of them are marked. So, so it's worth looking up when you're in the area. So anyway, the next I want to show about the Stranahan House. This is not in the Seminole War Guide. This is a little later time period, late 1800s, 1890s. Stranahans were kind of the uh, started Fort Lauderdale city area. And this is the house that they built. It was a trading house for the Indians. In fact, it's reserved as a museum today that you can visit. And the Miccosukee tribe has a like an embassy nearby, which that's one of my bucket list things. I need to go see that, and I need to see the Stranahan House too. And if we go to the webpage of the Stranahan House, right here, that's a beautiful location. A few years ago, they got some of the guys in the canoes. I know my friend Pedro Zapata was one of them, canoed up to the house because it's right along the canal, and information on the Stranahan family. An old picture from the um, 1890s and about the Seminoles who came into town and traded with them. So definitely something I need to come see. Okay, next thing. Oh, it's January 8th. Okay, the same day as the anniversary of the Battle of New Orleans. Okay, history, Fort Lauderdale. I guess this must be the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society Museum. I have not been to this one yet either. I've tried to go in the past, but I couldn't find it. I'm not sure if it just opened up in the last few years. Really been a few years since I made a trip down to Fort Lauderdale. So that's another thing I need to add to the bucket list. Okay, let's see where our next stop is. Okay, let's go back to some Broward County websites for some of the parks, Seminole War related. So let's see, where's my share button? And the website's not all that great because it doesn't tell the Seminole War history. Long Key Natural Area. Long Key was the site of a Seminole village in this area. And before we go on the next one, I want to go back to my photos. Sorry about going back and forth. There's the Indian Hallover is the website for the, or I'm sorry, not website, historical marker. I'm getting mixed up going back and forth. Where? Hold on. Sorry about this. Here's my historical marker. Okay, I didn't think I had it in there first. Okay, we're okay. I saw the Strahan House hull over. It's a original crossing point used by the natives and the Army. Another spot on the Seminole War Trail booklet. There's also a statue commemorating Major William Lauderdale, who was with the Army at the Battle of Waxahachie. He was from Tennessee with the Tennessee Volunteers. This statue kind of looks like the was at the end of trail statue. It was pretty much the end of the trail for Major Lauderdale because shortly after he went back to Tennessee, where he died from illness he had contracted in Florida. So let's see what we have next. Okay, we're in Davie, and I can't tell the difference between Fort Lauderdale and Davie because when I've driven there, it all looks the same to me. So let's talk about Treetops Park in Davie. The Seminole Miccosukee tribe uh, put up a statue of Sam Jones. This was the site of the Miccosukee village, known as Pine Island at the time. And that will show the picture on the web page, but let me pull up a picture here. Here's the statue by the father and son, Cooley. They do many statues for the Seminole tribe, and I really like this one. I was there at the dedication about 30 years ago. So this is in Treetop Park, and of course they've also made a copy of the statue for the Atofakee Museum, and I think the Swamp Safari out at the reservation. It shows Abiaka or Sam Jones, who was a chief and maker of medicine, Miccosukee tribe, who's leading the women and children to safety, that the tribe now considers him the reason why they remained in Florida. If not for his guidance, that they would all be removed to Oklahoma. So Sam Jones or Abiaka is his name. And so also in Davie is the Seminole tribe of Florida. And they have the council oak. And this is not on the booklet because this is modern history. There's a big oak tree there. It's known as the council oak. When the Seminole tribe of Florida incorporated in 1957, they had their council meetings under this oak. So I know there's a lot of oak trees in Florida called council oak, but this one is actually the council oak. So actually the real one. So let's do a side trip here to while we're in Davie. It's the Seminole Tribe of Florida, has their headquarters there. They open up the headquarters building to the public, but they do have the Hard Rock Hotel. And let's see, let's go to Hollywood Reservation. Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Last time I was there a few years ago, they're still building the guitar-shaped hotel, and they have a big powwow tribal fair here in February, beginning of February. This is a hotel shaped like a guitar. It's you, of course, you can see this from miles. You can even see it way over in Fort Lauderdale. I think this is Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood Reservation. Okay. So so the next we have is I guess this is south of Broward County going towards Miami-Dade, Snake Warriors Island. And I got this from Florida Hikes webpage because they have a little more better information. Snake Warrior Park, oh, that's a beautiful wet area there. Betcha. Yeah, snakes. Okay. Let's see. I think I have another photograph of the park. Yes, it's a map of the park. You see pretty much it's a natural area and some walking trails, which actually it's kind of my kind of park, named after Chitto or the legendary snake warrior there. Uh, so anyway, that's another place. I need to take a trip into Fort Lauderdale area and see some of this. Okay, let's go into Miami. And down to Miami, let's talk about Fort Dallas. Both Fort Dallas and Dallas, Texas are named after the same guy. It was Commodore Dallas of the Navy. And this was the original barracks at Fort Dallas, dating to about 1839, 1840. And this postcard, of course, is from about 1940, uh, but it's actually still there. And I'll show you. Here's a web page from the, if I can shuffle back to my web pages, the Dade Heritage Trust, Loomis Park is where it's at, and they have some other historical buildings. Here it is, the Fort Dallas Barracks there. I think it's made out of coquina or something. There was a really cute looking kids there. I think that's mostly an educator's webpage. I think that's great. Okay. So that is Fort Dallas, one of the few remaining Seminole War fort buildings that's still in existence. Okay, next I'm going to, hold on. Hold on, let me go to History Miami Museum. Oh, here we are. And you can see here, they give you a virtual tour in the building. Watch this. We're going to fly through. Whoa. Almost hit my head on the door. Yeah, I've done some research. They have a real good archives here too, library. And yeah, it's going around the Fresno lens of the White House upstairs. Remember the Disney ride, If You Had Wings? The People Mover, If You Had Wings. Oh, watch out. Oh, oh, coming through. Oh, coming through, coming through. Watch out. Make way, make way. Don't cut. See in the museum. Oh, that's a fun ride. Anyway, looks like we're back at the Stranahan House. Nope, or somewhere. Okay, that's awfully fun. Okay, that's a that's the funnest website of the bunch I have on here. So that is the History Miami Museum. And so let's see where we have next. Let's talk about, oh, before we get to, before we get there, sorry, I have to shuffle around some of the websites here. Do I have, okay, okay. We'll talk about Cape Florida. Sorry about that. Trying to find my button for my share button. Sorry about this. I'm having to jump through the websites and I got so many windows open that I have to. Uh, okay. So anyway, if you go west from Miami down Tamiami Trail, Fort Lauderdale, Tamiami Trail, you'll get to the Miccosukee tribe. And the Miccosukee tribe, they have a village and a museum there. They also have a casino, but I don't really spend any time at the casino. They do have, so, yeah, don't really have a picture of the village here at the website. So let's go leave there and see if I got a picture of the village here. Oh, here's the village. Sorry, I'm going a little out of order here. This is the or Miccosukee Village and Museum here on the Tamiami Trail, also known as 8th Avenue. So, also in South Miami area. Uh, let's go Arch Creek. I'm sorry, I got these out of order. Arch Creek was a roadway during the Seminole War. It was a natural bridge. Over the creek is like a limestone area. And in the, I think the early 1973. They say it collapsed. Some people claim the developer blew it up. I don't know, but it was also the military roadway. And at one time, it was actually the highway went over this land bridge. So that was pretty neat. Okay, now let's talk about Cape Florida. Cape Florida, also known as Bill Baggs Recreation Area on, was it Key Largo? So if you go on the South Beach from Miami, go on Highway 1 towards the Keys, there's this lighthouse here. Captain Vinton, who we mentioned earlier, made this little sketch in 1839 when he is stationed here with the Army. The Cape Florida Lighthouse has the distinction of being the only lighthouse attacked and put under siege by Native Americans and either Miccosukee warriors or Spanish Indians attacked it in, I think it was July 1836, early in the Second Seminole War. The lighthouse keeper and his slave went up in the tower, and the warriors started to set fire to the staircase. And so the lighthouse keeper thinks that, he's done for. He's going to commit suicide. He drops a keg of gunpowder down in the fire to blow himself up. It blows up the staircase and, of course, leaves him stranded in the top of the lighthouse. The warriors raid the lighthouse keeper's place and leave. Of course, he's up there, and his servant is killed by the fire. And a few days later, a Navy ship comes by and sees that the lighthouse is not operating. The lighthouse keeper is stranded up there. They have to fire a rope up there to get up there and climb up there and then tie him and bring him down. Uh, this is the lighthouse today at Bill Baggs Recreation Area. Uh, they have given separate tours of the lighthouse. I have not been there. I've been at the park on the beach. It's a beautiful beach. Really neat area. If you go the other side of the peninsula here, you could see Miami. It's really scenic area. Okay, that was Arch Creek in the Miccosukee area. So going down in the Keys, we have Indian Key, and this is it here. It's an island. There's no way to drive to it. In fact, it shows some structures on there. I don't even know if they exist anymore too, or if they got destroyed during one of the hurricanes. But let me pull up the web page. Here's the web page back to Florida State Parks, Indian Key State Park. The only way to get there is by boat or kayak, and it's day use only, accessible only by boat. I've seen it from the highway. And of course, they have a message here. I think they have a message saying it was closed for restorations or something. Oh, let's see. Effective August 25th, environmental restoration. The park will remain closed while the project's active mooring buoys may still be used, but entrance onto the island is not allowed. So you have to look at it from a distance, but there's just the building foundations and the old cisterns or something, really not much left of that. So we're in the middle of Keys now, just one more place to go to, and that is down to Key West. Key West, Florida, the Keys Historical Military Memorial, and they have a marker here honoring the Seminole War. I don't remember seeing this in the Keys. I'm not sure if it was there when I went down there with the scouts many years ago on a sailing trip from the sea base. So anyway, Key West, it's a interesting place. A lot of historical sites too and museums. So what a tour. Sorry for juggling back and forth on the photos and the websites that I totally failed on. So next week we're going to Southwest Florida, but I wanted to bear and get through Southeast Florida here first. So thank you for bearing with me. This is probably our longest video for the Heritage Trail. But in a few weeks, I got something else coming up mentioning the Battle of Okeechobee. I was looking into the archives today. I found an account of the Battle of Okeechobee of an officer, Colonel Electus Backus, my one of the favorite names of an officer of the Second Seminole War. I think he's the first infantry, but he had his journal, a map of the Battle of Okeechobee and the forts around it, like Fort Bassinger. So I'm going to do a video on that. It's a really neat thing. I had never found that before, so that's a upcoming video in the next few weeks. So thank you for staying with me.